Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Film Reel Podcast. I'm your host, the Sultan of Storytelling, Mr. Alex Khalil. We are coming to you taped from the highest room in the tallest tower of Castle Khalil. And with me in this endeavor is my co-host, co-anchor, co-pilot, co-conspirator, cohort, Mr. Jesse Frawley.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right. So this is the first ever podcast we've done together. We've talked about it for a long time. We've talked about it'd be fun to do a film podcast together. So here we are. We're rolling with it.
Right.
So why don't you go over do you want to talk about how this came about? Do you even remember?
I mean, I know we've been kind of shooting the idea back and forth for a while to work on something together, and the podcast is basically the way to do it now. It's
any moron with a microphone can do a podcast, and I got right. two, so yeah, I'm ahead of the curve.
It's a simple concept, and why not?
Right, but I think what it was actually we were talking about underrated movies. And I remember the one that we talked about was Atlantis. Was one that we talked about. I think the other one that we were talking this movie's so underrated. Right. Was A Knight's Tale.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think that was it because
it had to be.
Yeah, it had to be. So. How we're going to do this podcast going forward, obviously for the pilot, we can't announce to the public what we're doing for the first episode because there's no first episode. So what we will basically be doing is every week we'll have an episode about one movie, which we're going to talk about, and we'll mix it up. Maybe we'll do a bunch of movies. Maybe we'll do a bunch of, maybe we'll do a TV show. Who knows? We're calling this on the sperm of the moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's no real plan here. We're just kind of winging it. And we might do it every week, every other week. Who knows? Again, just
plans change.
This
is the farthest I've gotten with any kind of organized effort like this. My friends and I are always talking about putting together a film group, making videos and such. And I mean, usually we get to a second meeting, write down some ideas, but that's about it.
Best laid plans.
So this is pretty impressive.
Yeah. We're actually recording now, and this will actually go out onto the internet.
Absolutely.
I know, terrifying. The internet's going to actually be judging us.
God.
The tens of hundreds of people that are going to be listening to this. But at the end of every episode, we'll alternate about which movie we get to pick. That way the audience listening in can just watch it along with us and before we're ready for the next episode.
Right.
So that way you get to participate too and listen to us talk about a movie that we have no earthly right to criticize or critique, but we're going to do it as fans because that's what we are in layman's terms. We're fans of film because I've never worked in anything movie related. Have you?
Well, kind of. I mean, I've worked with film groups. I've made indie films before that were submitted to, whatever the local film fests are. I was in one called Nazi Punch actually a couple of years ago.
Now, was it about punching a Nazi or was it about a punch bowl?
It was about punching a Nazi, but it turned into Nazi zombies. Naturally.
Oh, okay. Natural progression.
I don't have my hands on the final product, actually. I got in touch with the writer-director recently asking if I could grab that, and it turned out to be the day after he took it off YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So,
and actually, I was actually in one film. It was a short film that my buddy Justin did before he went into film. It was a way of him auditioning for film school in Chicago.
Right.
So it was literally just me, him, his cousin, my friend Luke, and Luke's girlfriend Jamie, and we just filmed it in Luke's apartment. And it's funny because during the filming, it's a bright sunny day, and as we're finishing up the last scene, it's completely getting dark out by itself. Yeah. So
I mean, if you think it's bad dealing with the weather for any kind of film project, try the weather in Michigan. Right?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. And it was during the winter too, so the sun goes down at 5:00.
Right.
So, all right, enough with the bullshit. Let's get to the meat of the episode. Well, actually, there's an appetizer because as of filming this, we were filming this on January 17th. For those of you who care about those sort of things, Oscar nominations came out about this week, Monday. Was it this week,
Pretty
Monday,
close.
or last? Okay.
Yeah.
I have been very bad this year about watching a lot of movies because number one, I bought a house. I've been doing all that shit. I didn't have time to go to the movies, and honestly, a lot of these movies I didn't give a shit about.
Right.
So, well, we can go over very briefly a few of the genres that actually matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about sound editing or sound mixing because I don't know what the fuck that is.
No,
I have no idea.
We're pretty basic in that regard.
Right. Well, first and foremost, the one that everyone gets, the one that's like a freebie, basically. Best visual effects. Nominations include Avengers Endgame, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, excuse me, and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I agree with all of them except for Lion King. It's like I don't think that deserves to be on there.
I know there was controversy over how they actually animated The Lion King and how they kind of made it look more like an actual nature documentary than they did.
Honestly, The
Lion King.
And actually, honestly, like if they had just done like a nature documentary with no voice acting and just done The Lion King, I would have admired that more because
that would have been a live action Lion King.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like let's do The Lion King, but that's not what people want.
That would have been very impressive.
Avengers should win this one, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see Marvel movies. I want to say superhero movies generally, but it's mostly Marvel getting into the Oscar nominations.
Before we talk more about this year's Oscars, let's talk about last year's Oscars real quick.
Sure.
As you bring this up, what did you think of the Black Panther movie getting nominated for Best Picture?
I mean, as much as I genuinely love the movie, I kind of don't understand why it was nominated for Best Picture besides the fact that it was so popular. And maybe that's okay. I mean, popularity shouldn't be discounted.
Let's break the fourth wall here for a minute. We're both two white guys.
Of course.
So we have no right to talk about the cultural impact this movie represents. And I understand there's a lot of people that this movie was huge for them because it's a majority Black cast. It takes place in Africa. It's talking about African culture. It talks about African Americans and their struggle with moving into America, leaving their culture behind. It's a lot, and
that's perfectly fair. Yeah.
Yes, and I can even as a white guy, I can understand. Like, okay, I can see why this would be so impactful. But as far as a great movie goes, Infinity Wars was better.
Yeah. Okay. And especially within that universe. I mean, you're talking about what was technically just an average Marvel movie.
A very good one. I'll give them that. It was a very good one.
I don't mean average in the fact that it was an average movie. I just mean that when you look at the Marvel franchise, there's Marvel movies and then there's the Avengers movies, right?
Okay, that's a very fair comparison. I really do think it was just they were worried about like what would happen if they didn't nominate it for Best Picture, which is that the internet would collectively lost their shit and claim that the Academy is racist, which maybe they are. Who knows?
I wholeheartedly believe that racism is one of many issues that the Academy faces.
Oh, God, yeah. Of course it does.
And I guess that's another reason I felt it was almost a weird pick for a Best Picture nom, because it felt like the Academy was apologizing for the 2 consecutive years of whitewashed nominees and just said, hey, we're not racist because we're nominating Black Panther for Best Picture.
That is 100% accurate. That being said, it did not stop Marvel and Disney from toting that train.
Of course. I mean, rightfully so.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But the fact that Black Panther is a Oscar Best Picture nominee and The Dark Knight isn't is the biggest sham of all time. Also, I think that same year, maybe it was 17. I think it was 17. Was Logan, which was not nominated for anything. It was nominated for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best. I think it might have got a Best Original Screenplay or Best Adapted. I think
there was something in there. I'm sure,
but didn't get nominated for Best Picture, which was a sham. Yeah. So
that's something I want to address about the way the Academy looks at superhero movies like that. Is when they throw it a nom, they usually just throw 1 or 2 in there,
Except for the movie we're going to be talking about today,
right?
Which is a teaser for anyone that didn't look at the title, what the movie we're going to be talking about is. But
of course,
we'll get to that.
The thing that going back to Black Panther, let's look at past years when usually a picture that's nominated for Best Picture also has performances, director, writers. All these subcategories. I mean, you look at Hugo, for example. I don't think there was a single category that Hugo didn't at least earn a nomination for.
I don't remember. Maybe got I think it was Best Supporting Actor. I don't remember lead actor though for that movie.
For which one? Sorry.
For Hugo. I don't think they got. I think Black Panther definitely got like original score and original song.
Yeah.
it definitely didn't get any for acting, and I
Mhm.
think maybe for a best adapted screenplay. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up too. But
And
my point is like when the Academy nominates something for Best Picture and then it only nominates one or two other parts of the movie for an Oscar, it feels lazy to me because it's like if you guys don't even think it was worth nominating for a couple of other subcategories, why did you throw it in for the big
that
kahuna?
is a very good point. That is a very good point.
Right.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm going to skip through a couple of these next ones, but the one that really stuck out to me was best hair and makeup. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, got a nomination.
Okay.
Which is probably the only nomination that movie's going to get for anything.
I forgot that came out this year. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would like to forget that came out.
Ah.
I didn't see it. I don't give a shit. I hated the first one. And that's a whole other. Best cinematography, The Irishman, Joker, The Lighthouse, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood all got nominations. Very surprised because I didn't see The Lighthouse, but I heard a lot of people say how great it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm shocked that one did not get more nominations.
Exactly. I mean, nobody that I know who saw The Lighthouse left saying anything about it being average or ordinary. I mean, if you saw The Lighthouse, you had some profound opinion on it because it's a profound movie.
Yep. Next big category I want to talk about, Best Animated Feature Film. How to Train Your Dragon 3 got nominated, which was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
Easily the weakest of the series, in my opinion.
Sure.
But still good. I Lost My Body. Never heard of it.
Yep.
Klaus, the one about Santa Claus on Netflix. I didn't watch that yet either.
Oh, yeah.
Missing Link, which a lot of people were talking about how good that was.
That's the one with the Yeti?
Yes,
something?
I believe so.
Or it's like this. I know which one you're talking about. I'm forgetting the name.
It was like right around the time that came out and Abominable came out.
Yeah,
and it's like,
okay. Yeah.
And they all kind of blended together and like they have very similar animation styles.
I think it's the one with like Bigfoot or something.
I think Jenny Tatum might be in this one.
Really?
I think so. Okay. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
And then Toy Story 4. So no Frozen 2 nomination.
Okay, that's kind of unfortunate actually, because I've heard that Frozen 2 was really good and
I've heard from a lot of people say like it was just okay.
Okay. I mean, what I heard specifically was that it kind of tackled some real issues like anxiety, for instance.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like the vitriol towards the first one and people being just, I say vitriol, I mean it won Best Animated Picture,
and and deservingly so. Because it's actually a good movie.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people look at it now with a critical eye because like it's so overblown and oversaturated and over-marketingized.
Well, yeah, nobody likes the most popular kid in class, but they're the most popular kid in class, right?
Right. Yeah.
So somebody's got to like them.
Yeah, but I didn't hate Frozen. I thought it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I in the realm of Disney movies, it was nice to see this kind of return to form, but still acknowledging like, hey, we acknowledge the bullshit things we did in the past,
sure,
and we're gonna tweak them and make a more modernized version. Like, okay, that's cool. Mm-hmm. So, and let's be honest, like the musicals were actually really good too.
I did like most of the songs in it. I didn't think the troll song was necessary.
That's the one everyone talked about, which was like the first, which is the last song, which is kind of unfortunate. Like the last,
is it really the last?
It's the last song in the movie.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think they have like a little like ending number, but it's like it's not a full song.
Sure.
And like it's a very unfortunate that's the ending song.
Yeah.
But I actually really like Frozen. I didn't see the second one because I didn't care to.
I didn't care to until I heard, that it was good.
Okay. Best original screenplay, Knives Out, which I saw recently, which is fantastic. Another film that I was surprised got very snubbed, in my opinion, this year because there was a lot of nominees.
It is the year for snubs.
Yeah. Marriage Story. Haven't seen it. Shockingly, I don't really want to see a movie about a failing marriage after just recently getting married last year.
I can understand.
So that's not really high on my list of things. Yeah. Although that being said, I heard it's great, and I don't like movies about shit that can that feels real life and is depressing as hell. Like the movie Precious, everyone talked about how great that movie was. Sure. I didn't want to see it because I don't want to be depressed by a movie.
Yeah.
I don't go to movies to be depressed.
I used to have a weird fascination with movies that were that powerfully sad.
Okay.
I used to love watching a movie that had a moment which would make me feel maybe sad or, upset somehow. I mean, I'll use Click for an example.
That's a good movie.
I love the movie, but one of the reasons I always wanted to watch it was for that scene where he's in the rain and he's like screaming for his family because it's powerful,
Yeah.
you know. And now I agree. I don't want to see slice of life movies that just bore and depress the shit out of me.
It reminds you how shitty life can really be.
Well, yeah, because it's like I want my movie to have some aspect of escapism. Like I want to leave all of the turmoil of real life behind for 2 hours and just have a good time.
Which that's one of the reasons why like a show like House of Cards and Handmaid's Tale I cannot watch right now.
Right.
Just because like the world's too depressing as it is. I don't need to be reminded how shitty it could actually be more.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's or same thing like with like Black Mirror. Like I can only like watch like one episode at a time where it's like, okay, I need a break. I need to watch like an episode of Always Sunny to laugh my ass off, to cheer myself up after this depressing show.
Yeah. Black Mirror, you got to be in the mood for Black Mirror, in my opinion. I do love Handmaid's Tale. I've only seen the first season so far.
I've heard very good things.
And, oh man, it's every episode feels like it has 5 different climactic moments, but it doesn't feel overwhelming.
But another show that's sort of like that for me is Orange is the New Black. Have you watched this at all?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah. It started off with like a very dark comedy. It's a women's prison show. You know, it's funny, but like also kind of like, oh, this is sad that she's in this situation. You feel sympathy for these characters that are in prison and how bad the prison system is. It takes a turn around like season 3 or 4 to where it's like, oh no, we're going to remind you how shitty the prison system really is, especially for-profit prison systems. Yeah. And it's like, I haven't been able to watch the last few seasons because it's like, it's depressing and I'm angry and I want to punch my TV because like all these people are pieces of shit and I want them to die.
Yeah.
And I don't want that from my television shows.
It's very hard sometimes to dedicate yourself to that kind of show or a movie. I mean, I find myself in kind of a constant debate over it too, because on the one hand, I don't want to make myself upset by watching this show that I like, but at the same time, it feels like the most direct and also the most harmless, risk-free way of finding out what other people have to go through every day. You know, it's like it's second or third hand exposure to a real problem,
right? And
I want to be educated. You know,
here's the thing: if I want to be educated about a situation like that, I'd watch a documentary.
Sure,
I watch TV shows to get in escapism. Again, every once in a while, I do like watching a slice of life show, and I do enjoy. I do plan on finishing Orange is the New Black. It's just when I go into a show and thinking like, oh, it's gonna be this way, and it takes a hard left near the end. It's like, oh man, like it's like this is hard to digest.
Yeah.
Back to the original topic, screenplays, 1917, a movie I do plan on seeing. I hear mixed things about it now, like, which again, I think it's because of how overhyped it was. Yeah. Because like everyone was talking about, oh, this is the greatest war movie since Saving Private Ryan, but now like people are like, oh, but the story is very basic and blah blah. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see it, and now before I pass judgment.
It's getting to the point for me where, you know, any movie about World War One now is starting to feel a little tired out.
Has World War One really been overdone though?
Well, the thing is,
because there was War Horse and like All Quiet on the Western Front. That's about the only 2 World War One movies I can think of.
No, there's more. I mean, of course now I'm drawing a blank on what they are, but I just feel like every time somebody has an idea for a World War II movie, they think, wait, we've done World War II way too much. Let's go to World War I instead.
That must be a recent thing because, like, I think, like, back in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, World War II was the big thing, which ironically was still around the time that, like, World War II shooters in video games were big and popular. So, who knows?
But it's still the same concept of the Germans are the bad guys.
Well, yeah, but the Germans are always the bad guys.
Sure.
Better than like the barrage of Middle Eastern war movies we got for so long.
That's true.
Where you know, don't try to explain the point of view of the Middle Easterns again. Let's be honest, terrorists. Okay, fine, but like, let's just they're the bad guys, and you know, I'm not saying they're good guys, but like. At least with the World War II movies, there's at least some kind of like there is an understanding of like why the German people were doing this,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to in the Middle Eastern war movies, like during like the war in Iraq and everything like that. It's just like, oh yeah, they're the bad guys, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
at least with the World War II movies, you get like a little bit of shades of gray
Yeah.
in there sometimes, because you know some of the guys were just there because, oh yeah, like this is my home country. They went to war. I had to. You know.
Yeah.
So people are gonna think I'm defending Nazis and Taliban now. First episode, we already drawn controversy.
We're probably gonna get demonetized.
Probably. Another one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino obviously is going to get nominated for a screenplay because it's Tarantino.
I know he's one of those figures in Hollywood that when he comes out with something, it has to be a big deal.
Yep.
Has to be nominated.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me, coincidentally, it reminds me of DiCaprio. It's like DiCaprio doesn't just do movies; he does DiCaprio movies. You know.
Yep. And then the last one was Parasite, which is a South Korean movie.
Right.
Which like. I hear nothing. Oh, I don't know anything about the story of the movie, which is apparently that's the way you want to go into the movie blind. It's like you don't want to know anything about this movie.
Yeah.
But like, it's nominated for Best Original Screenplay. It's nominated for Best Picture. It's nominated for Best Foreign Film.
Mm-hmm.
It got a lot of attention, and and I think it's actually nominated for Best Director as well. And it's like, that's pretty awesome. That
I kind of hope I kind of hope it wins Best Picture just on the surface. Like I also
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised, because much like the same way of like Slumdog Millionaire, they're gonna which again, I like Slumdog Millionaire.
That was a tough one, but yeah, that deserved.
Yeah, but it's like it's the idea of like, oh look, we give it to the foreign film. Look how progressive we are. We'll pat ourselves in the back for another year.
Right. Man, I wanted to mention you said how it's good to go into that movie blind, and I thought it was really interesting how the trailer really does not tell you a whole lot. It gives you a lot of hints.
It's nice to actually have a trailer where that you can't tell the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I like about Nolan's movies is like you can't tell the plot of his movies from the trailer.
Yeah. Versus a movie like Underwater, which I saw Underwater. It was fine, but you know, they show you the monsters in the trailer.
Which
they never used to do that.
I hate never show the monster in the trailer.
Yeah, it's like, why would...
That's rule number one.
Yeah. You know, what that eliminates all mystery to this horror thriller thing you've got going. So, I mean, it's more fun to say that you're going to go to a movie and, you know, oh, well, it's about, you know, a diving crew underwater that runs into some sort of catastrophe. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, so I'm going to go see this underwater monster movie.
Right.
And I assume somebody's going to survive.
Yeah. Best adapted screenplay, The Irishman, which I still haven't watched because it's 3 hours long.
Oh God.
It's hard to sit down for 3 hours.
Exactly. I mean,
thank God he put it out on Netflix and not in theaters, because it would no one would have gone and seen it.
Dude.
No.
The last time I saw a 3-hour movie in theaters was like King Kong.
No, Endgame. Endgame was like 3 hours.
That's right.
Yeah, which was worth it.
About? Of course.
Yeah. Although, like, I will say, I saw the movie a second time in theaters, and during that, like, spoiler alert for Endgame, during the part where they're going back in time and everything like that, it's definitely like, okay, you guys can fast forward this. We don't need all this stuff. Like, I'm definitely like, okay, hurry up. Like, let's get, you know, yeah, she dies. Let's get to the good parts. You know,
right.
It definitely suffers from that. Jojo Rabbit, a movie I did not see, and I was very sad I didn't get to see that.
That is a movie I've seen, actually.
I really wanted to see this movie so bad.
It's fantastic. I loved it so much.
I'm glad Taika Waititi is getting work. He is great.
He's fantastic, and he makes such a great Hitler.
Yeah, which did you hear like the controversy about like, you know, like, oh, they're promoting Hitler by doing this movie? It's like the producers, like the producers is not promoting Nazism, it's mocking Nazism. Yeah. Like there is a difference.
See the movie and you'll realize that's not true.
The Joker, very well deserved, I believe. We'll talk about that more.
We'll be touching on that one pretty soon.
Little Woman, a movie I have no idea what it's about, or I have not heard about it at all.
I saw the play.
Oh, really? Okay.
A while, like, I mean, before I was in high school, I saw the high school put on that play.
Oh, the high school production of it?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Our high school, Williamston.
Wow. Damn, I must have missed that one. What's the basic plot then? Can you with the most basic?
I mean, I'll say this: it's a very white story. You know, it's a very upper class, old style white story.
Okay.
And I just know there's young women going through I literally have no idea.
Okay.
Nope, I don't know.
It left that little of impact.
Saw
Okay.
it like over 10 years ago. I have no idea.
And then the movie Two Popes, which is on Netflix, which I also want to watch because
Yeah.
All right, and then we get in the acting category. We'll try to breeze through this a little faster. Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell. I haven't seen it yet. Kind of want to. Laura Dern for Marriage Story. Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit. Scarlett Johansson gets a Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress nomination this year for this movie, and then she was also in Marriage Story,
right?
Which I'm like, awesome that Scarlett Johansson gets nominated. Like, so good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Florence Pugh for Little Woman. I don't know.
I think it's Pugh.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Margot Robbie for Bombshell, which, don't have any interest in seeing that movie. I don't need a movie to tell me that Fox News is full of pieces of shit.
I'm going to say, we can find better feminist icons than Megyn Kelly.
Yeah. Like, no. Well, she played Kylie, whatever. I don't know how the hell.
Even so, I mean, the movies, it's got Megyn Kelly, right?
Yeah, that's played by Charlize Theron.
Sure. Yeah. That's a weird choice. Her voice is so much lower than Megyn Kelly's, for starters.
Well, they had to make her somewhat likable.
So I assume they leave out the part where she claims that Jesus and Santa Claus are white, right?
Probably. You got to support her now. I don't care. Okay, so I want to make one joke real fast about Richard Jewell. Again, I haven't seen the movie. I'm sure it's good. I like Clint Eastwood's movies. He's pretty good at directing and acting. But like, as someone pointed out, someone better than me on another podcast pointed out, it's like, kind of ironic that in this time period, Clint Eastwood makes a movie about how the media lies about a guy being the suspect, and the FBI, tries to paint him as like, very timely movie there, Clint.
Yeah,
it's like, wow.
Clint Eastwood is such a hit or miss director for me. And usually, in my opinion, it's a miss. I'm excited to see Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think Changeling was as good as...
Which one was Changeling?
Changeling was the one about the woman whose son
was missing. with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember that one now. Mm-hmm. I liked Gran Torino a lot.
Oh, I love
that was a
Gran
great
Torino.
one.
Yeah.
And again, like a movie...
That was a hit.
Yeah, a movie about the most unlikable human being on the planet, and you actually are on his side by the end of the movie. That's a hit.
Yeah, man.
So,
I'm glad.
Best Supporting Actor, Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers in It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I really want to see that movie. Anthony Hopkins for Two Popes, Al Pacino for Irishman, Joe Pesci for Irishman, and Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I mean, they couldn't justify not giving Joe Pesci a nomination.
It's Joe Pesci. How many more does he got in him? Okay,
right. It's like,
I love Joe Pesci.
Last hurrah, man.
Joe Pesci is a boy of mine. Like, I love Joe Pesci. Like, he's so likable.
Right. Like, he came out of retirement for it. So
yeah.
Give him credit.
Cynthia, or for Best Actress, Cynthia Erivo for Harriet. I apologize.
I don't know, but I really want to see that movie.
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce this one. Someone from Little Woman. You want to try to read that one?
Oh, is it Saoirse Ronan?
There you go.
Saoirse Ronan.
There you go. Charlize Theron for Bombshell and Renee Zellweger for Judy, which is about Judy Garland.
Okay.
That's cool. Best Actor, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory. I never even heard of that one.
Nope.
Well, they had to nominate one non-white guy. So, congratulations, Benicio. It's you. Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. It's really a shame that Joker came out this year because I think Adam Driver would have won for Marriage Story. Based on the clips I've seen of him acting in that movie, he would have won hands down. But Joaquin Phoenix, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least exciting to have. I don't really like it when the nominees have such a clear winner and then a couple of
this one it could go multiple ways.
Yeah.
Best Director Martin Scorsese for Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, which I think might have a good cause because of the fact that it's shot to look like one solid take the entire time. Yes.
Oh, that's
much like Birdman. So it's like that really makes me think they might have a chance.
I admire the style.
Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's always a contender anytime he's nominated for Best Director. Yeah. And I will not even try to pronounce the gentleman's name for Parasite. You want to try to pronounce it?
Oh,
okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. We apologize. I'm sure he's a wonderful director. I'm not going to butcher his name. Pong Joo-ho. So, like, that's probably as close as I'm going to get.
Sure.
And then for Best Picture, Ford versus Ferrari. Never heard of it, or I heard of it, never really cared to see it.
That sounds boring. Ford versus
Yeah,
Ferrari.
yeah.
Okay.
It's like they basically like it's like they built a race car to have like a race between the two of them. And, like Christian Bale's in it, and a couple other like.
Yeah, the only racing movie I can remember, like being really good, was Rush.
That was a pretty good one. I did enjoy that. Although it was very misleading because like it wasn't really about the Chris Hemsworth character at all,
right?
Which is weird.
Yeah, they had pretty good time, each of them.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Woman, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. So pretty much the ones that got a lot of attention in other categories. Besides Ford vs. Ferrari, that one kind of got like no attention in any other categories.
Yeah.
So those are the nominees, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when the winners are announced, and by then we'll have seen some of the movies that are actually nominated.
Hopefully.
So now let's get to now we're only 30 minutes into the podcast. Let's actually get to the meat of the podcast.
Sorry for everybody who had to wait through
that. That's fine. Just enjoy it, and just put some on the background, and then enjoy
talking about movies we haven't seen.
Yeah, we're painting you a picture, okay? Yeah. So we're going to talk about one of the most controversial movies of last year, which is the film Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It is an adaptation of the origin story of the Joker. It's not based on one single comic book. It's more of just a new adaptation of the Joker story.
They just wanted to make a Joker movie, and
that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
But that's basically what Todd Phillips said, was he didn't care about connecting it to the DC universe, which
was evident.
That's a whole other story, which I would like to talk to you about, like the DC versus the Marvel universe. Maybe we'll do that for an episode. So we'll give it kind of a brief summary of the plot. Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is a party clown, inspiring stand-up comedian who lives with his mother Penny in Gotham. He suffers from a mental illness that causes him to laugh at inappropriate times, and basically he is like down on his luck. He relies on a social worker for medication to help him maintain a normal life, essentially. Yes. He has a neighbor named Sophia, who has a daughter, and he invites her out to the club one night to watch him perform stand-up, and apparently it goes well, and they start hitting it off and become a couple, which very weirdly, because like even like the scenes of them together are just very you don't get the idea there's any chemistry between them at all.
I was waiting the entire movie for them to make a reveal that she was like a figment of his imagination. Yeah, because it felt
it just felt off. Yes. Like the entire time. Like my wife saw this movie, and she's like, yeah, the whole time it felt weird that like that whole part. It's like, and yeah, I agree. He's also given a gun by his friend Randall at work to help for protection, because at the beginning of the movie he's jumped by a bunch of kids that beat him up and break his sign, which is just
that. Yeah, that was a terrible way to start the movie, I have to say.
It was a very like, this is the kind of movie we're going to have.
Yeah. What killed me, though, was that when the kids beat him up in the alley, the dialogue is literally, hurt him, beat him up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so are you trying to get the point across that these kids are mean and they want to beat up this guy? You couldn't think of anything better than hurt him, beat him up.
I would have liked if like maybe they showed him like trying to rob him afterwards, like they don't find anything.
I know, they just kick his ass and they leave.
Yeah, something, I don't know. But while entertaining at a children's hospital, Arthur's gun falls out of his pocket, and he's fired and like basically like thrown under the rug by Randall, his supposed friend and coworker, and he's fired. Yeah. While on the subway home, still in his clown makeup, Arthur is beaten up by 3 drunken Wayne Enterprise businessmen, young guys, like very douchebag looking right out of college guys, who are actually like bothering a woman first, and Arthur starts laughing.
Yeah, they were they were a lot more believable than the kids.
Yes. And so they beat him up. He shoots 2 of them in self-defense as the last gentleman leaves and runs for the stairs. Arthur shoots him to prevent him from telling the story. And then we get probably the first scene where I'm like, okay, we're in a different type of movie here. Right. Which is Arthur running into the bathroom at like a park or like a subway station. I don't know.
I think it was the subway.
Might have been. Yeah. And it like he like calms himself down by doing like almost like this meditative dance. Yeah. To like the eerie theme of the movie, the eerie song theme. And it was at this point I'm like, okay, we're going somewhere with this movie. Like this is going to be something totally different. I thought it was a fantastic scene.
Yeah. it felt like it took a little long for it to get there. One of my problems with the movie was the pacing, and it just kind of felt like I was constantly waiting for the plot to get going.
To catch up,
Then
yeah.
every time it had a scene like that, it made me think that it was starting up, and then it would kind of slow back down again.
The murders are heavily criticized by the billionaire and mayor candidate Thomas Wayne, who labels the envious of more successful people as clowns, which encourages a lot of demonstrations around the city of people donning clown makeup and masks, very much in the image of what Arthur was wearing at the time of the murders. And also this time, funding to the social services program is cut, so leaving Arthur without his medication or any help.
Yeah.
Which is a very important scene, I feel like. Because even the social worker acknowledges that quote, they don't give a shit about you, Arthur, they don't give a shit about me.
Right.
Which is a very important part of the movie, I feel like. Because it paints the picture of like, essentially like, hey, like if you don't have anything and you're like a cog in the machine, they don't care about you, you can be replaced.
Yeah, I think the movie was basically breaking the fourth wall right there, just to say, you know, this is how it is for a lot of people.
And honestly, it is.
Yeah.
Sophia attends Arthur's stand-up routine, which goes poorly. He's laughing uncontrollably and has difficulty delivering his joke. A popular TV talk show host, Murray Franklin, who Arthur and his mom are huge fans of, they watch him every night and everything like that, finds a videotape of Arthur performing the stand-up, puts on a show, and mocks him, calling him, look at this joker, and you know, berates Arthur, essentially, which really upsets Arthur. Around this time, Arthur finds a letter written by his mother to Thomas Wayne, who she writes all the time because she used to work for him, and she says that if he knew what they were going through with the struggles to pay the bills or anything like that, he would help them out. Well, the letter says that Arthur is Thomas Wayne's illegitimate son from an affair that Penny and Thomas had. He goes to Wayne Manor, and actually runs into a young Bruce. And we get a very, like, almost heartwarming, but also very creepy scene of Arthur, like, bonding with Bruce for a split second. With no dialogue, which is, it makes it extra creepy that they're not talking. Which was great.
I remember hearing on the radio a while before the movie landed, somebody was saying, you know, when we come back, we'll talk about why Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Robert Pattinson's Batman will never meet.
And that's the reason.
Yeah, I didn't know why, because I didn't hear the rest of that story. Then seeing the movie, looking at that scene, it's like, oh, it's because Joker's going to be like 90 years old by the time Bruce becomes Batman.
The scuffle is broken up by Alfred Pennywise, who makes Arthur leave. Arthur's later visited by two cops, while actually they're looking for him about the murders in the train, like just to ask him questions. They ask his mother some questions, which upset her, and she has a stroke and she's in the hospital, which again upsets Arthur. Which we get a great scene though, where he's outside the hospital, and like this is one of the two of the funniest things. It was like, one was like him like walking away, and like the cops, like one of the detectives asked like, oh, that laugh thing, is that a real mental illness? Like, what do you think? And like as he turns around to walk in, he hits the door. Just two of the best laughs of the movie. Which again, like, it's depressing as shit. But like,
it was really funny, especially to me, because I thought, okay, maybe the theme of this is like, you know, he's invisible even to the automatic door, and then
I didn't even think of that. I thought it was like, oh, just shit.
I thought it was just supposed to be I thought they were going for some deeper meaning, and then it expands, and the cop is like, you have to go the other way. It's just like, man. I don't know why they put that in there, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, it was great. At a public event, Arthur confronts Thomas in the bathroom and tries to explain to him like he's his son. He doesn't want anything. He just wants a father in his life because he doesn't have any male role models in his life. Thomas basically said that his mother is crazy and that he is not her biological son.
Yeah,
and we get as Arthur starts cracking up and laughing like he does.
Yeah.
Thomas Wood just punches him in the face and tells him he'd kill him if he goes near a kid again.
That was also a very believable scene.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I kind of like that they made Thomas Wayne he's a billionaire,
right?
and this guy comes up and says he's his illegitimate son, like, yeah, he'd probably be a little hostile to him. Like,
yeah, I mean, no matter what your opinion of Thomas Wayne is in the movie, in that situation, what else are you going to do?
right?
Like this
right.
guy,
and like to his credit, he does try to like no, your mom's crazy. Like he tries to be calm at first, and like he realizes this guy's nuts, and like okay,
yeah, he doesn't just turn around and punch the dude in the face.
Right.
He gives him a chance to talk, more than he earned, and then
right.
you know, once he starts acting especially weird, or at least when you know he starts laughing, Thomas has no knowledge of his condition, and he probably just thinks he's being an asshole. So he's like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Arthur visits Arkham State Hospital, which is the fact that they made it a state hospital as opposed to the Arkham Asylum. Nice touch. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
He gets his mother's case file and finds that Arthur was adopted as a baby, allowed to be abused by a boyfriend who abused them both.
Mm-hmm.
However, in a audio recording, we see Penny talking to a doctor who claims that Thomas Wayne used his influence to fabricate the adoption and committed her to an asylum to hide the affair. And the nice thing I like about this, we never find out the actual story.
Yeah.
We're told the version from Penny, we're told the version from Thomas Wayne, and what the case file says, and then we're supposed to say, like, that's it. We don't know the actual truth.
I would argue that was probably one of the less important storylines in the movie, so I'm glad they didn't feel like they had to give it some profound conclusion.
Right, and again, it all comes full circle. I feel like at the end, which we'll get to in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Very upset about this, obviously. Arthur returns home and enters Sophia's apartment unannounced. Sophia stumbles across him in her living room, and she is confused about why he's doing there. Turns out that the entire relationship that they'd had together was all in Arthur's head. And right then, I was like, "Holy crap!" Much like the scene in the bathroom, where I'm like, "This is going to be something special." This was like, "Okay, we're really going this way."
Yes,
this blew my mind.
I was very pleased when that happened.
Yes,
because for a second, I mean, sometimes it takes me longer than it should to catch on to those details.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as she entered the apartment and was like, you know, really on edge seeing him there.
I thought at first, like, oh, okay, he just surprised her that he just broke into his apartment. And it's like, you're that Arthur from down the hall, right? And it's like, oh, she doesn't know him at all. Like the whole thing.
That was very well done.
It was so well done.
None of the scenes of them being a couple were believable.
And really. and like added nothing to the story.
Yeah.
And it's like, the fact that, like, but like now looking back at like them being him just imagining it makes it that much more powerful.
I do agree. It was a very powerful moment for the movie. I'm sure we'll cover this in a sec, but I think it also had kind of a problematic tone to it just in the general story. But
but also we also get a great part of the best part of the scene I feel like was the Sophia asking like him like, are you okay? And he says, I just had a really bad day. Which, do you understand what this is a reference to?
I'm sure I'll remember once you remind me.
It is a line from The Killing Joke, which basically the Joker surmises that anyone is one bad day away from madness.
Aha!
So it plays up the idea like, okay, like, you know, he's had a really bad day, and like this is like this. It basically, like, from this moment on, like it's like he's no longer Arthur, he's the Joker.
Yes.
Like it's like his entire world. Like he thought that his mother was the only person that loved and cared for him. That they were abandoned by his father.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, oh, it might all be bullshit. Like my mom adopted me and like let me be abused and made me this way and almost guilt tripped me to taking care of her for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bullshit. And like it broke his identity. So now he forms a new identity, which is the Joker. Which,
we finally arrived.
Yes. Well, we get the following day, which Arthur goes to the hospital and smothers his mother with a pillow, proclaiming that he now knows his life is a fucking comedy.
Yeah.
Again, what a scene! Like
he has a bad day, goes to the hospital, is like, "Fuck you, mom," and he just murders her.
Freud would love this guy. Arthur is then invited to the Murray show due to the unexpected popularity of his video on the show. He's ecstatic and he starts getting dressed up in clown makeup. Which, okay, from this moment on in the movie till the end, is some of the greatest filming ever put on film this year. Yes. This entire movie is fantastic from this point out. Yeah,
this was by far the best sequence of the movie, and I just wish more of the movie was like that last
But
sequence.
I think it works. Okay, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So as Arthur's getting prepared, which like it's great because like Randall and his friend Gary come over, like they're two coworkers of Arthur. they come over to talk to Arthur, and he's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm celebrating. My mom just died," which again, just amazing.
Right.
And like Randall tries to intimidate Arthur to basically admit that, like, "Oh no, that gun was yours," and all this bullshit. Arthur straight up murders him.
Oh yeah.
Just out of the blue, which is just again like hard left turn this movie took.
Yeah. He just kind of turns around, gets the knife out of his pocket or a pair of scissors,
I think,
whatever.
yeah, scissors, yeah,
and just boom.
Yeah, and brutally murders him.
Yeah.
Which then he lets his Gary, who is a midget, dwarf, little person, whatever you want to call him, leave because, "Oh, you're always nice to me, Gary. You can go." And then he can't reach the door lock because he's too short.
Oh God.
Oh my! And it was just again the amazing comedy they were able to put into these scenes, which are dark and twisted, and then like, oh my, you're laughing your ass off.
Right.
Incredible.
I loved that scene just because from the perspective of looking at it suspensefully, it was really, you really felt, I can't remember the friend's name. Gary, yeah.
Yeah.
Really felt, what he was feeling in that situation.
Which is just, he reacted totally naturally, which is like, oh my God, like just screaming, like, what are you doing? Why did you do that?
Like you see him leaning against the door and he kind of looks over his shoulder like, shit, I have to ask him to help me right now.
Right. Do I ask this guy for a favor?
Yeah, I can't get out of here unless he comes to stand next to me and unlocks the door.
And which Arthur does, which again, like, just I love the fact that Arthur actually does that, showing that like he does still have some of his humanity in him. He's not just a cold-blooded murderer. But it just like well, yeah. But he's not a total.
He's killed 2 people at this point. So
5. The 3 guys on the train. Yeah.
We can argue that the first 3 were not entirely cold-blooded.
Right.
We weren't supposed to feel bad for them, but
right. And then we get another iconic scene from the movie, which is Arthur in full Joker getup, dancing down the stairway.
Yeah.
Amazing scene. I love it. I've watched it time and time again. It's so entertaining.
Yeah.
Because you feel the joy in him just as he's dancing down these stairs.
Yeah, because I mean at this point he's planning to die, right? His plan was to go on to the
So I forgot to mention. So there's a couple times like where like he's talking about like he's imitating like him being on the murder set, and like he pulls out the gun and pretends like he's going to shoot himself in the head.
Yeah.
So the whole time this building up to this part where you're going on the shock show, you think he's going to shoot himself on live television to send him like this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a very good point. I totally forgot about that scene.
Yeah. So like he wants to kill himself on
and wants to make an impact.
And so that scene on the stairs, it's cool because
he's enjoying life one last time.
Well, yeah, he's made his decision. He's like, I'm just gonna end all of this. I'm finally gonna find peace, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
And 2 detectives who are trying to interview him, like chase after him. They end up on the train, on a subway train full of the protesters, who are all dressed like clowns as well.
Right.
And like one of the detectives actually shoots one of the passengers, and they are beating the shit out of them.
The music during that scene,
it's intense.
I love that scene so much.
And then like the great part was like him like Arthur like grabs a mask and puts it on over his face. And he's like the officers like are dragged out the subway, like they see him like take the mask off and like do like a little dance and like walk away. Just, again, so good.
Mm-hmm.
So they're at the show, and Arthur meets with Murray, who Arthur asked to be introduced as the Joker, which is referring to Murray calling him, look at this Joker, when they introduce the clip. Which again, that's how you do what's the word I'm looking for? Like the big moment of like how this person gets their name in a meaningful way that doesn't feel like
the reveal. Yeah,
it doesn't feel like ham-fisted and like, oh, look how clever we are. Take note, Solo. This was so well done.
We're never gonna forgive you, Solo.
Yeah. And then so like right as he walks out, before he hears Murray making fun of him again, and he does his dance a little bit again, like the music, and like it's almost like his like the dance like transforms him into the Joker.
That was so awkward when he just walks up to the lady
and just full on
just pulls her into a
wears the face off her.
Right. Everybody standing around is like, what?
Yeah. And then like this scene is amazing. Him on the show just being very awkward and making terrible morbid jokes, including a knock knock, who's there? It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead.
Man.
Just like you watching the movie, I'm like, oh my god, this is bad.
I know we were supposed to not like Murray Franklin, but I actually thought he was really funny in that scene. Like, Joker, he's just like, okay, I'm going to take out my notes right now for a joke.
Yeah.
And he goes, knock, knock. And Murray's like, you needed to pull out your notes for that?
Yeah, it was just good. It was great.
That's a good point.
Robert De Niro was really well done here. At this point, Arthur reveals to the audience and to the whole city watching that he killed the 3 gentlemen on the train. My dog's barking downstairs. Apologize for that. In which case, like, it turns into a very heated discussion between Murray and Arthur, which is it's fantastic acting from Joaquin Phoenix, where he basically like runs down Thomas Wayne and the people in general, like, you treat people like garbage, you walk over them, you don't care about us, no one cares about anyone. It has the great line, like, you all expect us to be good little boys and not go werewolf, which A+ line. That's a great line.
Sure.
And like, so finally, like, he asks Murray, he wants to hear one more joke, which, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him? You get what you fucking deserve. And pulls out the gun and shoots Murray in the head.
Yeah.
And I audibly, during the movie, just went, oh, like, I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a, like, just, whoa. I didn't, like, again, this is an R-rated movie, but, like, the fact that it was just like, bam.
Yeah.
A+.
That was, I guess that was kind of a standout person getting shot in the head moment in a movie.
That was one of the, like, just most, like, shocking moments I've seen in movies.
Because, like, we're used to that kind of thing being handled almost casually, right? It's like, there's a shot, there's blood, they fall over, and, they tried to make that one realistic. So
yes, the fact it was so realistic felt like, oh, this is different.
Right.
Arthur's obviously arrested by the police and taken away, as, like, basically the whole city starts burning around him, as, like, rioters start going crazy because of the death of the rioter that the police detective shot in the train, and then also the video of Arthur on television. On his way being transported, he is in a car accident by the police. The protesters drag Arthur's broken body out of the cop car, which is like, you guys really didn't plan on, like, how is he going to survive that?
Car
like,
crash ex machina.
Yeah.
Right there.
And, like, while this is all going on, like, as the Joker rises from the ashes and becomes the Joker, Thomas and Martha Wayne are gunned down in the alley.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
In front of Bruce Wayne, as the shooter imitates Arthur's line about, you get what you fucking deserve.
Right. That spread fast.
Yeah. And, like, as Arthur does his dance again to the music, which, again, haunting music. Mm-hmm. It was so great. And makes a bloody smile with his fingers, like, with the blood in them. And the movie cuts to him in Arkham laughing at something. His therapist, which I believe was it the same therapist that the social worker?
I don't think
so. But they look very similar. Like, again, like, I was a little bit, like, traumatized by what happened previously.
Maybe it was. I can't remember.
She asked Thomas what he's laughing at. He just says he was thinking of a joke, and she asks, "Well, what's the joke?" And he calmly says, "You wouldn't get it."
Yeah.
And the movie then cuts to him walking down a hallway with bloody footprints as the orderlies chase him.
Right.
And we're out.
Yeah.
So basically, you're supposed to surmise that maybe the whole thing, the entire movie, was all in Arthur's head.
Yeah.
Maybe parts of it were in his head. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the genius of this movie, which is we don't know what was real. What was real, what was made up in his head. Was Thomas Wayne really this asshole? Was Arthur this, pathetic loner, or was he sympathetic, or was he just an asshole?
Right.
We don't know. And that, I think, is what made this movie so good, was, like, the fact of, like, you can go back and watch it 1,000 times and maybe get a different interpretation every time.
Yeah, that was my first thought walking out of the theater, was that it felt like a movie they should show in film classes, because there's so many different ways you can watch it. There's so many different points of view you can really, see it from. So it feels like a good movie to spark debate.
Because it's the unreliable narrator.
Sure, yeah.
Because we're basically told halfway through the movie with the Sophia thing that Arthur is now an unreliable narrator. We cannot trust what we are seeing on screen because Arthur is telling us the story.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is actually could just be in his head,
mm-hmm.
which is very, very smart.
Yeah.
But all right, so I think this movie is one of the best movies of the year. I think it's probably my top 5 greatest comic book movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it takes a complex character and not necessarily makes him sympathetic, but it's the shades of gray. You understand where the character's coming from. You don't agree with what he's doing, but you understand why he's doing it.
Right.
And it's almost a cautionary tale of like, there's a lot of people that said that this was going to spark people to go to the streets and kill people and cause chaos and everything. No. If that's what you got from this movie, you need help. This movie, and I think, was a cautionary tale like, hey, when you treat the people that need help like shit, when you look at the mentally ill, the poor as burdens that we have that have to be carried and taken care of, that causes resentment throughout the community.
Uh-huh.
And when you do that, it's dangerous because when you push people far enough, how are they going to react?
Right.
They could react negatively. But at the end of the day, it's a story about like treating people well. And hey, if someone had taken time to actually give a shit about Arthur and his family and what was going on with him, this wouldn't have happened. But no one did. He was the punchline for a talk show TV host, a famous talk show host. They treated him like a punchline and brought him on to mock him further. And that's what caused him to snap.
Right.
So in my opinion, it's a cautionary tale of like the dangers of mental illness and why it's so important to care about people that have mental illness and why it's so important to give a shit.
Mm-hmm. So I come at it kind of from the other direction. Actually, I'm weird with this movie because I enjoyed it while I watched it, and I think as a standalone movie, it is very good. I have sort of since then, though, mainly seeing other people, voice their opinions about it, I've come to agree that there's a lot of really problematic stuff about it. I wanted to mention the girlfriend thing first. So it felt like they wanted Arthur to be this textbook, downtrodden protagonist or anti-hero or whatever they would technically classify him as.
Technically, he is the protagonist because it is his story.
Right. He's the main character.
Right.
But it's like I don't know if Todd Phillips wanted him to be the hero, but
I think in a way that it's not necessarily the hero, but he's the main character of the story. The antagonist in a way is Murray, even though we're sympathetic to Murray because Murray gets shot for telling a joke.
Right.
But that's the thing. Like you're not supposed to be rooting for Arthur. You just kind of see where his point of view is.
So the thing that I find troublesome about the girlfriend plot, I like that we get this reveal that they were never actually together.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe them together, and it was really cool seeing that was all false. Especially because you get that shot of her being the one person in the audience who laughs at his jokes during the comedy bit.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like they were saying he has an imaginary girlfriend. And I feel like something you could almost take away from that is, well, if she had just been his girlfriend, maybe none of this would have happened, And there's so often people, shooters. I mean, let's be real.
Okay.
Oftentimes, shooters are rejected.
Okay.
And they voice anger about being rejected.
Okay.
So I feel like there's kind of a parallel there that I think is troublesome.
The reason I would disagree with that point of view is because we don't actually see a scene of Arthur trying to ask her out and him being rejected.
True. Yes.
It's just he in his head can't come up with the courage or doesn't have enough confidence in himself or whatever to actually engage in her and talk to her. Like we see it very in the scene in the elevator, like he's very shy. He can barely talk to her. It's only when she starts walking away that he even acknowledges her.
Yeah.
So now if there was a scene of her rejecting him and then this whole thing played out, yes, I would see that point of view. But in my opinion, because he never actually asks her out, he just fantasizes about it and that makes him happy. Yeah. It's more of a delusional thing, less of a, I was scorned, so now the whole world must suffer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I don't think the movie tried to get that point across that I was talking about, but I just kind of worry that there is sort of this subtle undertone saying that if he had a woman in his life, he would never have done this.
And that's
woman besides his mother. I mean,
that is a legitimate call. And the one you can argue, like,
mm-hmm.
as soon as his mother is out of his life,
yeah.
that's when he goes full werewolf, as he would say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you know, you could argue, like, you could look at a number of movies and get a different reaction for every different kind of category. Yeah. I think if anyone that looks at this movie as a like, oh, see, he was rejected and he went crazy, so I should do the same, there's probably something wrong with that person.
Yeah, I mean, that'll open up a whole new can of worms on mental illness and everything. But that was, so the movie obviously wanted to tackle mental illness, right?
Yes.
And it wanted to say that, you know, Arthur was mentally ill in some capacity, mm-hmm. and that contributed a lot towards his progression into the Joker. And I saw a post today, of all days, that
okay.
kind of made a very interesting point, I thought. This woman was saying how she thought if she was a man, she would find the Joker to be very insulting because it kind of painted this picture that men were ticking time bombs who, you know, if they're mistreated enough, if they're mentally ill, mm-hmm. or, you know, just a culmination of all these things that the Joker kind of showed, that you'll turn into this monster, basically.
Okay.
And it's like, well, let's think about all the people, all the men, or what have you, who really do face these challenges all the time, mm-hmm. and who come out stronger as a result.
Right.
I mean, I frankly found it more believable watching those three guys on the subway who had everything. They're obviously upper class. Mm-hmm. They have prestigious positions in Wayne Enterprises.
Right.
And they're just fucking terrible people to this poor woman on a subway and this poor mentally challenged guy over here. Like, I think the people who are so well off like that are oftentimes edging closer to that kind of monstrosity than the people who are facing these challenges every day.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the great little, like, written in Arthur's book, there's mm-hmm. the great line about the worst part about having a mental illness is everyone wants you to act like you don't have a mental illness.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's a very poignant thing. You know, like, I could absolutely see where anyone that approaches this and says, like, okay, I think this is a disturbing me because of this. Yeah. I can understand their point of view 100%. I don't think that was the intention of the filmmakers. Mm. So therefore, I don't know if that's what they meant. Maybe they just meant to make a good Joker movie. Who knows?
I mean, art is subjective. So
exactly.
I don't think it's even reasonable to say that you can come out with a movie like The Joker and everybody's going to see it the way you wanted them to see it. Like, somebody out there is going to see it and think something mm-hmm. way in the opposite direction.
And I mean, look no further than the Rotten Tomatoes score, which was like in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's nominated for 11 Oscars,
right?
11 Academy Awards. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's one of those things where, like, well, is it a bad movie because it's challenging and it brings up a lot of questions that maybe people don't have the right answers for?
Yeah.
Or is it a great movie because it has those questions?
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that, you know, no matter what people take away from the movie and no matter what the movie wanted to accomplish, I am very glad that it has sparked this discussion.
And another reason I love it personally is because I'm a huge comic book fan. So the idea of having a movie like this that has this intense debate and people questioning all these different moments of the movie and looking at, like, this as like dissecting this like mm-hmm. a complex piece of literature, is that I hope it sparks people to be like, hey, comic books do have a point in cinema.
Yeah.
Like, Martin Scorsese has said, like, he doesn't like the Marvel movies because he doesn't think they're real film. And I think this is an example, like, hey, this is a comic book movie based on a comic book character.
Yeah.
And it has sparked millions of people to dissect it and talk about it. We're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
And if this movie was just a dull, lifeless affair that had no cinematic value or worth your time mm-hmm. discussing, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Well, yeah, I don't think... I think if Todd Phillips had gone for a more direct Joker movie, then maybe people would not be having as frequent discussions about it. So, to be honest, it didn't really feel, for the most part, like I was watching a Joker movie. It felt like it was very detached from the DC universe, and that's why people are treating it as a movie detached from the DC universe. It
felt like what it felt like when I saw Logan or The Dark Knight, where it's like, this is not a movie that just for comic book fans. A movie goer can find enjoyment out of this movie because it treats it like a movie, but it comes from a source of a comic book.
Yeah, and I think of the three, Joker is the most,
grounded,
abnormal. Yeah, it's just, I mean, for one thing, he doesn't don the Joker outfit until the very end.
Yeah, the third of the movie.
So it's like it's more of a movie about Arthur Curry than it
or Arthur Fleck.
Fleck, sorry. Arthur Curry is Aquaman.
Yes.
So it's more of a movie about Arthur Fleck than it ever meant to be about the Joker that we know.
In all honesty, if you took away the fact that they call him Joker and the Bruce Wayne part, this could just be a movie about a mentally ill patient.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily feel like a comic movie, which is a great thing. I love when a comic movie doesn't feel like a comic book movie.
Right. And I definitely heard that kind of support from a lot of other people that talked about why they liked the movie so much. I mean, the night I saw it, or the night after, I posted my score of it. I gave it a 7 out of 10 at the time.
Okay.
And, I got some comments from people kind of both directions, and some of the folks that said they liked it mentioned how it didn't feel like another DC movie. And I mean, I really understand the vitriol towards live action DC movies at this point, because from Man of Steel onward, it's kind of like, what are you guys doing? I mean, I loved Wonder Woman and I liked Aquaman, but otherwise it's kind of like, you guys are losing this fight against Marvel.
Oh yeah, but again, as so many memes have said,
sure.
With this movie, it's like, like Marvel. Oh, we've created like biggest box office thing, and it's like the picture of the Joker from The Dark Knight. It's not about the money; it's about sending a message.
Yeah.
And in a way, this movie sent a message. What that message is up to interpretation. But as a famous wrestling promoter once said, controversy creates cash.
Yes,
you cannot argue this was not successful. You cannot argue that it got people talking. It got people interested in it. And at the end of the day, isn't that what movies supposed to do? It's supposed to make you think about things. It's supposed to make you wonder and make you want to watch it again to like, maybe I'll understand it better this time.
Yeah. The other thing kind of working against the movie, I think, is just that it's coming out at a time where we are growing more and more intimate with the topic of mental illness. And
I think that's why this movie is so much better, because it came out now. If this came out 10 years ago, it wouldn't have made as big a splash. But as coming out now in this kind of climate, I think it may force people to look in the mirror and be like, hey, am I a good person? Am I helping people that need help? Am I looking out for other people, not just myself?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you make, because I think if it came out 10 years ago, people would look back on it and start talking about how it was a product of its time, how problematic it was. But the fact that it came out now is why people are saying this is harmful for a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
I think the people that look at this as harmful are the same people that don't give a shit about people with mental illness.
Well, I think I actually think that people who find the movie problematic are probably looking at it just from a position very different from our own.
Okay, that's fair. I'm dealing with absolutes. So
yeah, I mean, there's got to be people out there who face the same exact issues that Arthur did. They are not
100%.
They're not turning into these mindless monsters. So they probably think like, you are painting my situation as this ticking time bomb, and I could absolutely understand why someone would be furious with the movie for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, that's the thing. Like, there is no right answer. Like, is it
right?
But is this movie great? Is this a good movie? I believe 100% yes. Mm-hmm. Is this movie a dangerous movie that can twist and manipulate someone into thinking a certain way? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Look no further than what was the book that the guy read who shot Reagan or shot John Lennon?
But I think it was the same book.
Yeah, it's just people are able to twist anything into making it what they want to do, mm-hmm. or what they want to feed their goals.
Yeah.
I think this is a great movie, and I think it's an important movie, and I think it's one that people should look at and be like, hey, this is how powerful comic book movies can be
Mhm.
when in the right hands with people that care about it, and when maybe necessarily it's not about making $1 billion, even though this did make $1 billion, I think, or close to it.
Sure.
But it's about achieving a vision of what a great movie can be, and I think there needs to be more stuff like this. I'm glad it was successful because I hope that people take risks like this again in the future. So is there anything else you want to add on the Joker?
I'm sure I'll think of something later, but I mean, my final consensus is very hard to formulate. I'm glad that I saw the movie and I enjoyed it. Even just from a technical standpoint, there's a lot of stuff I wish they had changed, but essentially I'm very glad it came out and it sparked these discussions. And I do tend to agree with the people who think it's more problematic, but I also I recommend people see the movie.
Yeah, see it and make up your own opinion.
Exactly.
Like, don't listen to us and like let us persuade you about like, hey, this is what you should think. Me and you don't right now. Like the very first episode, we do not agree on a movie.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to happen.
I would rather that happen more often. Right. It just makes for a more interesting discussion.
Exactly. Like, but I don't plan on persuading you and be like, oh no, this movie's amazing. Right. We're like, oh, you're right. And like, no, like have your opinion, stick with it. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, we still enjoy the movie. I'm sure you're going to watch it again at some point. I plan on watching it again at some point. Yeah. And isn't that at the end of the day isn't that what movies is about? Yeah. Enjoying it.
You pick up on stuff with each viewing. I mean, it's almost impossible to notice everything the first time around.
All right. Well, okay. So now that's the end of episode 1.
Right.
What are we going to do for episode 2? Do you have a movie in mind? I picked I told you that like Joker. That's number 1. We got to do Joker.
I mentioned this to you before recording, how 2014 was a packed year, and I wish it was not as far back. I wish it was a little more topical, but I consider almost every movie that was on 2014's Best Picture nominations list to be very worthy of discussion.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mind doing a look back, but otherwise,
what movie you want to pick from what movie then?
Whiplash.
Yeah. Great, because I've never seen it.
All right.
I have never. Whiplash. So we're okay. So for the next podcast, which will probably be maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, we don't know. Fingers crossed. We'll be reviewing the 2014 movie Whiplash, or 2013, 2014.
It was 2014. Yeah.
2014 movie Whiplash. I'm very excited about this. I've been looking forward to seeing this movie for a while.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully you'll join us. Thank you very much for joining us on the Film Reel podcast. Jesse, is there anything you want to add?
Not right now. I hope everyone's having a good day and seeing some good movies.
Yeah. Stay inside and watch movies, or go outside and go see a movie. Just go see a movie. And we'll see you until next time. We'll see you then. Take care.